Another day to feel happy about life and to feel thankful for what we have and what we own. And I'm very, very, very glad to have you guys. I know how On Your Feet is a very special show for all of us. And I knew there was a lot of people that, felt that as, as part of their life. It has revealed something different from what I used to experience when I was doing the show. And a proof of that is our guest tonight. Jerry, thank you so, so much from the bottom of my heart.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How's quarantine going?
I'm good. I'm very fortunate. I have a house and I'm not in the city. I'm out on Long Island and Fire Island. And so we get to go outside. I just posted some pictures, some beautiful deer that are like just roaming around out here. It's very quiet out here. There aren't a lot of people. This is really a summer place more than anything. But our house happens to be winterized, so we can come out all year round. I know how hard it is for people who are battling this alone. You know, I've got my partner Ricky here with me, but not being able to talk to my family or see my family in person for quite a while has been tough. And I was in London from the 1st of January basically until I came home and this happened. And so I haven't seen anybody. It's been very nice. This is our 6th week here at the house without seeing people. So yeah.
Yeah. I've had a couple of weird days also. It's
Me
like
too. Me too. I've had a couple of days where I was like completely depressed, but you pull yourself up, you do a couple push-ups and say, snap out of it. I'm an early riser, so I'm up at 6 a.m. no matter what. Doesn't matter. Working or leisure, I'm always up at 6 a.m. Doesn't matter where I am in the world. But then I have to work out before like 9 o'clock because, then I want to start rehearsal at 10. So now I'm not rehearsing, but I am doing a lot of work online with writers who I've been working on projects with. So that's all good.
good.
But
That's
you were
amazing.
playing Judy Garland singing I Love a Piano, which is my favorite song. And that's from Easter Parade, which I just watched on Easter. We watched Easter Parade out here. It's a great movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Oh, I'm gonna watch. I haven't seen it.
Oh my God. You have never seen Easter Parade?
Never.
Well, I think
That's something.
it's a great movie. Ann Miller, Fred Astaire, Judy Garland. I mean,
I mean,
Peter
I
Lawford.
saw. I've seen the YouTube. Like, there's like a YouTube video of the part that they sing the song.
Yeah.
And that's what I've seen before. That's why I was like, oh, I think that Judy, if the original Berlin is not in Spotify, I can play the Judy, and I just love this song. It's amazing. When you picked
Judy
it, I was
Garland.
like,
Judy Garland singing anything is great.
right? Oh my God. So tell me a little bit about young Jerry, kid Jerry.
Young Jerry. Well, what is there to tell? I grew up in a teeny tiny town, little town, literally like one stoplight and 4 corners in southwestern Michigan. Everybody from Michigan shows their palm, but it would actually be this way and down here, southwestern Michigan. A little town called Pawpaw near Kalamazoo. So did the tour stop in Kalamazoo? Did it go to Miller
No, we
Auditorium?
didn't. We went
Did
to
it go?
Michigan, but we didn't. We
Did it go
didn't
to
go
Ann
there.
Arbor? Ann Arbor
No,
probably, or Grand Rapids?
no.
I think it went to Grand
We did
Rapids.
Grand
Yeah,
Rapids. That's where
yeah,
we went.
yeah. DeVos Hall. Yeah, yeah.
It's
So
cold.
yeah, well, if you're there in the winter, yeah, it's freezing cold. But I grew up there. There was a community theater in my hometown, and my next door neighbor was in the show The Music Man, and she said they needed boys, so I went with her to the rehearsal. Amy Firestone took me to rehearsal, and I jumped around on stage, and they put me in the show, and I was 10 years old, and I knew at that moment when that show was done, I wanted to do this the rest of my life. And so I just hung out at that Village Playhouse as a kid and did everything they would let me do, paint the scenery, dance on stage. I was in Fiddler on the Roof when I was 13 or 14, and I was playing
Oh, I love that
Mabel,
show.
the tailor. And on the cast party night, which was a Saturday night, we had a show the next Sunday, a matinee. and I did a 1.5 off of a diving board into the pool, and the diving board came down and hit the bottom of my heels. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, I get out of the pool and there's like this trail of blood, and I had cut my foot. I went to the hospital, got 13 stitches in my heel, and on Sunday for the matinee, I was walking around with crutches, and I would go on and I'd leave the crutches in the wing and go out and do the routine and go back. And I also, because I come from a small town, I doubled as one of the Russian dancers with a blonde wig in the To Life number. So I was playing model and doubling as the lead dancer with a blonde wig.
God.
And I was doing leaps off a table with 13 stitches in my heel. Full out, baby. The show must go on.
That's, I love this story. Oh my God. Wait, how old were you there?
About 13 or 14. Yeah. I was a kid.
Oh my God. I remember I twisted my ankle one day and I was not able to even move. I was like, I can't imagine performing with stitches.
Yeah, 13 stitches in my heel, and, came off stage at the end of the show and had a bloody sock, but I didn't care.
Was your family like encouraging you to be a performer?
No, none of them were in the business. Nobody was in it. My dad was a musician. He played the accordion. The Polish side of my family. So he played the accordion. My dad was very musical, and I think he was, a lot of his talent rubbed off on me. His love for the theater and arts and stuff. He would always watch Lawrence Welk scream at me, "Get in here! They're dancing! They're tap dancing! Get in here! Watch this!" When I was a kid. So yeah, he was into it. But no, nobody in my family really was into the arts. I just sort of found it on my own.
Wow, that's
Did we
amazing.
do a freeze?
Sometimes,
Froze for a second.
yeah, at least they have, like, your dad was a musician, so he understood how the art world kind of like worked, right? That's amazing. So, and then how was the
Yeah, and they were
moving
all
to,
there in Chicago for the.
sorry, kind of like froze for a
What?
second.
What happened?
No, I wanted to ask you then, from there you started in college. I mean, you continued.
So from there, what happened my senior year in high school, I went on tour with West Side Story. I was in a production of West Side Story as a senior in high school. And I got out of my senior year to tour the United States in West Side Story. And I learned the original Jerome Robbins choreography in that tour. It was a Young Americans national tour. I went back to school at the end of the tour in April and took my government exam. I had all my credits, so I was ready to graduate. But I went back and took the government exam and joined the track team the day I came back from the tour, and placed third in high jump. And I was like a major athlete in track. And then I graduated with my class, and then I went to Webster College in St. Louis, Missouri, where I had met some people and auditioned the year before. I had apprenticed at a Hope Summer Repertory Theater in Holland, Michigan. And then I went to that school, and I was on campus for 2 years, got my equity card at the Muni Opera after my freshman year. During my sophomore year, filmed a commercial for Dr. Pepper in St. Louis as a principal, which gave me money to come to New York City for the very first time in my life on my own, which was spring break. And
What was that, the year? What year was
that?
that?
Was 1980. 1980. I was 20 years old. I came to New York for spring break to visit some friends I'd met at the Muni, and they were going to an audition for an equity show, Brigadoon, which was a revival with choreography by Agnes DeMille. Agnes DeMille did Oklahoma, great musicals and ballets, and I auditioned and got the show, my first Broadway audition ever. And I went back to school and told them, and they said they would give me credit to be in the show during my junior year, because they had done that with other people in the conservatory. But 2 weeks before my sophomore year finished in St. Louis, a chorus line, the national tour, was going through, and you know how you would have auditions in towns? Well, the national tour was having auditions, and I went to the audition. I got a chorus line. So I went on tour with a chorus line all through my sophomore summer, and then I went to New York my junior year and started, and I was in Brigadoon and stayed in Brigadoon for the whole run, then went to Woman of the Year for the second half of my junior year, and then I got the film of Whorehouse, and then I said, I'm not coming back to school. So I never went back.
How was for you to, the first time you went to New York knowing you were gonna do this you were gonna do this business being on Broadway and like pursue your dreams?
Well, you know, I had done a lot of stuff. Like I'd done the Muni Opera and I got my equity card and I'd done the tour. So one of the girls from my tour of A Chorus Line, Kathleen Moore, gave me the keys to her apartment to stay in her apartment for a month while I rehearsed Brigadoon. But I remember the night that I landed in New York City to start rehearsal that next day. And I remember it was like 10 o'clock at night. I think I had flown in from like Arizona or Phoenix or something. It was
Oh,
very
wow.
late at night and I got to the city and it was dark. And you know, you're flying in and you see all the lights of the city. It was magical. And I'm in a taxi and I'm going to this apartment and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. I open the keys to the door and someone is sleeping in the apartment because she didn't tell me, but there was another person who was sleeping in the apartment and she was upstairs in the loft bed. And I said, oh, Kathleen gave me keys. Yeah, I know. Just sleep on the couch. I'm leaving tomorrow. And I never saw her. I fell asleep and she left the next day and welcome to New York. But I was in heaven. I was in heaven. Yeah.
Wow, I can't imagine. So how was your transition from being in Broadway shows to choreographing and then
Well,
starting directing?
well, when I got to New York, and you know, I wanted to be in shows, obviously wanted to dance on Broadway, but I always was sort of more of a dancer than a singer and an actor, although I did all those things too, but I was really a dancer. And when I did a show, I spent a lot of time just hanging around by the choreographer, learning, watching, trying to do everything, learning everything. And so as I got into my second and third and fourth Broadway show, I always raising my hand and volunteering. I'll help. I'll be a body. You can test it out on me. And I became an assistant. So I started assisting all of these great, and I'm talking great choreographers: Michael Bennett, A Chorus Line Dreamgirls; Bob Avian, Michael's associate, Follies; Sunset Boulevard, uh, what Miss Saigon. I mean, Bob was like my first big assistant job in London with Follies, and then Jerry Robbins, West Side Story, you know, everything that Jerry Robbins had done. So I worked with all of those choreographers as an assistant and associate. And then the next one, when I worked with Michael, Michael actually made me an associate choreographer on Scandal and an associate choreographer on Chess when he was doing that. And I realized that I wanted to be on that side of the table and I wanted to be a choreographer. So I stopped dancing. And I didn't dance for about 7 years. And then my dear friend Jeff Calhoun asked, who I had done the Whorehouse movie together, was working on this new musical, the Will Rogers Follies, and they needed a tall guy in good shape to play the Indian of the Dawn and do this dance on a drum. And Jeff asked me if I would do it. And I said, of course. And I was in the best shape of my life. I looked like Carlos. So, you know, my body was like, yeah, snatched. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I danced naked on a drum and created Broadway Bares, and the rest is history. And then I got asked to do, you know, Broadway show after Broadway show after Broadway show. So,
How was
and then actually after 10 shows, Hal Luftig was walking through Times Square and saw me in the middle of Times Square, and he said, hey, we're working on a new musical. We'd like to have a meeting with you. And I said, okay. I didn't even know who he was. So I went to this meeting, and there's Hal, Kristen Kasky, Mike Isaacson, and Dory Berenstein, and they throw a script on a CD on the table, a DVD, and it's Legally Blonde. And they said, we're going to turn this into a musical. And I said, well, I'm your guy, because I know that story. I can tell that story. And that was my first show as a director choreographer.
amazing? Because
Yeah.
that show, I've never seen it live, but
Okay.
being on tour with Claudia Yanes,
Yeah.
she was like, "You've never seen it?" I was like, "No," and we saw the DVD
The
of the show.
MTV. Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
stunning! Such a good show.
We're having a reunion on Wednesday on her Dory's podcast channel. It's going to be fun. A lot of fun.
You guys tune in because this is gonna be great. I'm definitely gonna be watching that. How was for you when you went back home? Sorry, I'm stepping a little bit back, but when you
Yeah.
went back home and you told your parents that you were not coming back to college?
Well, my parents always stressed education, and I was a really good student. I got all A's. I was very smart, and I took the most electives you could take in high school. So when I went on tour with Westside, I was already ready to graduate. I could have probably graduated after the first semester of my senior year. So they let me go because my principal said, "I'm going to let you go. You're going to do a journal. You're going to keep credit. You're going to come back and graduate." So that all worked. And what happened, as you know, each step of the way, my parents realized this was not a phase. This was something I was going to do. So they never stopped me from doing what I was doing, but it wasn't like they were like signing me up for auditions. They weren't, they were working and running a business. And my brothers and I all worked in the family business, but we had a bar and restaurant that my grandparents had, then my parents had, and we all worked there. I worked there my whole life as a kid. I started working there when I was 5 years old, and I worked there until the day I came to New York to live for forever. So I learned so many great lessons working in that business, you know, learning how to cook, learning how to wait on customers, learning how to serve people, learning how to deal with people and people's craziness and how
Yep.
not to get freaked out, and they're the customer's always right. You learn a lot when you work in a
Yep.
service industry, and it really serves me well still to this day in everything that I do. And all of those things I learned from my mom and my dad and my grandparents taught me the greatest lesson I think a parent or grandparent can teach me, which is if I wanted money, they always found a job for me to do at the restaurant bar. So I would go there and I'd do something and they would pay me. And they started teaching me that when I was 5 years old. My first job was a white plastic bucket with bleachy water in it and a bar rag and a putty knife. And I had to crawl under every table in the restaurant, scrape the gum into the bucket, wash the bottom of the table, the stool, and the thing. And I'd get $5. And I did it every Sunday. And I could $5 and all the beef jerkies or Slim Jims I wanted from my grandma. And that was what I got paid. And you think that's funny, but the reality is that to me as a kid, I saved those $5 and then I would buy something, and it taught me the value of a dollar. Really did.
It's a really good lesson.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I wish today most of the parents would do that with kids. I think the way that parents are raising kids today is like very
Yeah.
spoiled in a way.
I think it's important to teach them the value of a dollar, and that work, you know,
And the
it's
work.
not just about having the job and doing that as a life job, but just having the responsibility to show up, do the job, get paid, go home. It applies to everything you do in life, whatever you choose to do. But education, the funny thing is after I left school to continue to work on shows and stuff, and my parents were supportive. They were at every opening night. They were cheering me on always. Um, Eventually, when I finally won a Tony Award for La Cage aux Folles, my college gave me an honorary degree. So my parents actually got to come, and I spoke at the commencement ceremony in the stadium to 10,000 people, and then online to they have satellite universities all over the world, and it was a really great thing for my parents. That was really a great thing for them.
I'm pretty sure that was so rewarding for them to have
Yeah,
you like
yeah,
standing right in front of them, being like, he actually not just graduated, but he actually have a Tony Award. He's doing a career. He's like,
yeah.
living the dream. That's
My parents aren't here anymore, but I was very fortunate because they got to see me have a lot of amazing things in my life in the business, and I'm really grateful for that.
that's great. So tell me a little bit, how was the process? Because I want to jump a little bit. I would love to talk to you about like every show you've done and every process you've done in every show, but I know people want to hear about on your feet because it's an anniversary. It was an anniversary last
I know.
Monday
Yeah.
since we closed the tour, and it kind of like feels it was such a special. I mean, it was such a special show for
Well,
all of us, but
uh, I think it was once when we were in rehearsal, I said something about Cuban people and how their sense of pride and they're, I think you were there, did I
Yes.
say it? Because
Yeah.
you're Cuban, aren't you? Yeah.
Yes.
I was saying how Cuban people have this amazing sense of pride and a sense of ownership that comes through in a very specific way. Now, I think one of the greatest things about On Your Feet for me, obviously, was the chance to collaborate and work with my dear friend Sergio. You know, Sergio was, well, he is one of the greatest choreographers living, and I'm so proud of him and all of his work and everything about Serge. But you know, Serge and I first met when I was assisting Jerry Robbins. So Jerry Robbins sent me to Los Angeles to audition dancers for Jerome Robbins Broadway. Jerry Robbins did not come. He sent me and Cynthia Rubia. And we went there and we had this huge audition, and hundreds of dancers came and auditioned for us at the Debbie Reynolds studio. And we picked 2 dancers. And we told Jerry Robbins when we got back to New York, we saw 2 dancers who we think he would like, and we should fly them in to audition for him to be in the show. Sergio Trujillo and Nancy Ticotin. And they both got flown in, and they both got hired for Jerome Robbins Broadway. He hired them. And Sergio and I became great friends. And I worked with him that whole time. And then what happened was I had gotten offered a musical after Jerome Robbins opened on Broadway. And it was called Heart's Desire, a new musical to choreograph. And Jerry Robbins said, you should go do it. If it doesn't work out and you need a job, you can come back here and be a dance captain at the theater. But he said, go do your new show. Go do your new show. So I went and I took Sergio and Jack Noseworthy with me. I cast them in the show. And they came to Cleveland to be in the show. And that's where they met and started their relationship. So, and then Sergio and I and Jack, we've been close for years, very close. We're like family. But Sergio became an associate and an assistant, and he choreographed with me in Broadway Bares, and then he choreographed numbers in Broadway Bares, and then he became his own choreographer. And so now here was this opportunity to work on a new musical. And Nick Scandalius, right when he said it to me, he said, I want you to direct this. Would you consider Sergio as the choreographer? I said, first of all, I said, if I'm going to do a story about Gloria and Emilio, I want a choreographer who is authentic. I said, I could fake it. I said, but I want it to be authentic. We need to go for authenticity. And that was one of the key things we really fought hard for, was how to make it authentic. And a lot of that was Sergio for me, and also Andy Senior Jr., who, you know, I couldn't have done anything without him by my side the whole time. Maria Torres was incredible in the very beginning. And so we had a really strong team of people. And Alex, of course, his incredible book, and the music, and Clay, and the band, and Lon. And we did the same thing you do with any musical. We did workshop. We would read it, we would sing it, we would go back and write it, rewrite it. We'd read it, we'd sing it, we'd go back and rewrite it. We'd read it, we'd sing it, we'd go back and rewrite it. And then we finally got it on its feet in Chicago, and we opened the show in Chicago, and we knew we had to keep working on it to make it better. And we changed scenes and cut scenes. There were doctor scenes in the first act. The bus crash opened the show. We took it out because we didn't want to take away the drama in the second act. And so you do that. You just keep all of the Cuba Libre costumes changed completely out of town in Chicago. They were one thing, they changed, you know, completely. And Emilio's so brilliant and so fast and so great. And yeah, it was the same thing you do with every musical. It starts here and you work every single day to get it to there and make it the best you can possibly make it. But for me, the greatest thing was to be able to collaborate with Sergio as a choreographer and work together on those. That was his first Tony nomination ever, was On Your Feet, which he deserved, with, you know, no question he deserved it. And I was so happy and proud that he received it for that show.
It's amazing. And being in it, like
Yeah.
dancing all those numbers, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, when I first came to audition for the show, I was like, oh, it's an audition, it's a show for this Cuban, this Gloria Stefan, blah, blah. And when I was sitting in the audience, like looking at what you guys were doing, I was like, what is this? How is
Yeah.
this? I never saw a show like that on Broadway. Like, of
Yeah.
course, I dreamed about like being on Broadway, you know, like doing this
Yeah.
musicals and whatever. But then actually seeing my story and seeing, you know, like Cubans and like Latinos and like having so much fun on stage and like
Yeah.
actually living that every night was
Oh my God.
incredible.
It was incredible. Uh, Tradition, that opening number and what Sergio did, and that dancing and how incredible that dancing was, and then having it called back in the during the operation, which was so beautiful. It was just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous work.
Does Tradición has like inspiration? Like it has like some like the scenes in the show has somewhere they come from? How do you guys like like got inspired to create how the
Well,
looks and
I don't have the script in front of me, the very, very first script, but I'm pretty sure it was always the idea was that song was going to take Gloria from a young girl to Gloria, who would then take us through the whole show, 18-year-old Gloria. And so we started to work on that. I do remember the script had a lot more singing in Spanish before the show started, and we got a lot of that out because we weren't sure how much the audience was going to listen to before you needed to sing in English so you could get a wider audience to understand this Cuban story, this start of Cuban heritage. So we had to tinker with that quite a bit, but I think we found it. I think we found a wonderful mix. And Gloria was writing it in English and Spanish the whole time and changing, and we were trying different lyrics and different songs. Um, I remember in one of the original drafts of Alex's script, which was pretty brilliant. At the end of the act, it was going to be conga, right? Conga was going to be the big number at the end of the act, and in the script, I'm pretty sure it just said, and we go into a full blown concert, and they do the number, and that's it. And I kept thinking, no, we gotta tell a story with the number. We gotta tell a story with the number. And then I think there was a conversation with Gloria and Emilio about, well, when you started the number, you weren't really famous yet. Where did you perform? And they told me that they performed at bar mitzvahs and they performed at, conventions and things. And I had a dance captain on the first national tour of Legally Blonde. Spencer had was Jewish, and at his bar mitzvah, he did with his mother a dance in a sombrero and maracas to the lady in the coochie coochie hat, and I had a videotape of it,
oh
and
my
I
God.
showed that tape to Sergio, and I said, "This is how I want to start it. I want to start it, and Gloria is singing, and then I want to go to my brother's Italian wedding, and Gloria singing, and then I want to go to Vegas, where the two worlds come together, the conventionaires and the bride party, and the boy can be there, and we just take it home and blow it up into this incredible number." And Emilio proposes to her and gives her flowers, and they're going to get married. I said, that's how we have to finish the act. And we'd seen footage of Gloria's concerts where she went out into the audience and got them all to conga. And I said, and we're going to conga up the aisles right to the margarita bar. And so that was the inspiration for the story. And then Sergio went to town and choreographed it. And that was but it was completely developed in the workshop process and in the readings, because originally it was just a concert. It was just the number in a concert. And I said, no, we got to put a story to this. We got to really land it and show how they went from little Miami Sound Machine to superstar Sound Machine.
What about Mi Tierra? You know, that's my favorite number in the entire show.
Well, first of all, it's a phenomenal number, right? And I'm not sure if it was always the mother's number or not. I can't remember way back in the very, very early scripts. But Andrea was amazing when she created it. And and yeah, and Sergio, that was just pure Sergio going crazy, and having a number like that and being able to deliver a number like that so authentically Latin and those, yeah, it was great number.
And also with the story, with like the
Yeah,
dad, like
yeah.
how that whole thing came together
Well,
to
that
be
was
like,
all Alex. That was all Alex's writing. Alex's writing. It's always, when the writing is good, it's very easy for someone like Sergio or myself to tell the story. When the writing is strong and it's that well, it's constructed, it's very easy to get the story out. You're never confused when it's that good.
what is your secret to be smiling all the time? I'm sorry, I always wanted to ask you this.
I just am. I'm a pretty positive person, I think, probably. Just, you know, what's the point of being any other way?
It's true, and it's
You
amazing
know?
because you give that you give that to the other side. So
Yeah.
every time
Does,
I
does, doesn't mean I don't get depressed or like, like this last week. Ricky's here, my partner Ricky. We both had a day last week where we were both like literally having to pick each other up off the floor, thinking, what the hell is happening? What is going on in the world? How can it be this? How can people not understand what's happening and how important it is to isolate? Do I want to go back to work? Yes, I'm dying to go back to work, but not if it's going to kill people. Not if it's going
exactly.
to kill people. I want us to all to be able to come together and rejoice in a safe way where we can actually touch and hug and say, we're out of the woods, let's go. And we will, I know we're going to.
We will. Would you say the how's your perspective with the art world? How is it going to change when we go back to normal?
Well, i
If
think
it's a
i think
normal.
I think until there's a vaccine for this virus, or we understand how the test look. I lived through the AIDS crisis. Okay. So I was actually talking to Tom Viola at Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, because it's the mayor just said there'll be no gatherings in June in New York City, which is going to affect Broadway Bears, which we always do it in June. But we're making some plans about what we're going to do and how we're going to address that. But when I created Broadway Bears, the AIDS crisis had scared everyone. I created it for two reasons. One, I wanted to raise money for Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, and I wanted to raise it with a $10 ticket. So somebody who was like myself at the time could actually give $10 and feel like they were participating in the fight. So I wanted to have tickets that anyone could afford. And I wanted to tell people it was okay to touch and be intimate in a time when, as long as you were responsible and you were having safe sex and took care of each other, in a time when it was tricky to physically connect. We're going to be dealing with the same issues coming out of this.
Yeah.
People are going to be shy to shake hands, let alone hug their friends.
Yep.
And we're going to have to figure out, when is it safe to do that again? And testing is going to be paramount to that. And a vaccine for this virus is going to be paramount for that. And that will affect all of the social interactions we're going to have. So we just have to be vigilant about not jumping the gun, and
Yeah.
listening to the science and listening to the facts and listening to the doctors, the people who actually know. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to get back to work. Everyone wants to make a paycheck. Nobody doesn't want that. But we have to figure out, how can we sustain each other until that moment is ready to happen safely.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing, this like little thingings of
Yeah.
like kind of try to like keep people inspired, try to keep people like stay home, but also be aware of everything that's happening around you, but also stay positive. I feel
Stay
like
alive. Stay
it's so
alive.
important for people to
Stay
understand
home.
that,
Stay home and stay alive. Right?
but
That's what you
also
have to
like
do.
I feel like there's a lot of people dealing with like usually they have personalities that goes with depression.
Yeah.
But I feel like now it's also a good moment to make the people understand that this is not a necessarily bad. Being
No.
home and being alone and isolate yourself from anything is kind of like healing in a way.
Listen, I'm sure everybody's dealing with it in different ways. I can only speak for myself. The downside is that I'm not in a room dancing and working with people that I love to be in a room with every single day. So I hate that part of it. The good side is that I'm doing a lot of work with writers online. I'm working on 3 projects that needed time to write, and now we're using the time because we are all writing together. I'm I'm cooking some things that I've never ever cooked in my life because I have the time to look up the recipe and try it. I've cleaned the shit out of this house. This house is spotless. A lot of things that I've wanted to do. So, I'm finding ways to kind of fill my days. And I've been speaking to so many colleges and universities. I'm speaking to the University of Michigan tomorrow. Uh, I had a thing today. I have a thing tomorrow. No, I'm speaking. Yeah, University of Michigan tomorrow. I have a thing on Wednesday. I have 2 things on Thursday. So I'm talking to a lot of young people because I have the time to, and I've been asked to, and I'm happy to do it. Yeah, so it's good.
That's amazing. I feel like this is gonna literally put a different base on all the Broadway shows and all the productions that are coming up. I feel
Yeah,
like it's gonna like impulse a lot of people to create, and I'm really hopeful that new things are gonna come.
yeah.
Did you
And
know?
trying,
Did you know when you first started working on your feed? Did you imagine the impact that was gonna have?
well, I did. I thought the music. I thought, first of all, Gloria's music and Gloria and Emilio's music is known around the world. And so I thought, here's a library of some of the most iconic songs. And I had never seen a show that focused on a focused on a Cuban immigrant story, and so I thought all of those things were going to land huge. But the line about this is what an American looks like, when I read that line in the script, I think I said to Alex that day, I said, our goal is to get the audience. If we don't get the audience to applaud on that line every night, then we haven't done our job. We really haven't done our job, and it shouldn't be hard, not in this world, what's going on in the world, even in the time when we opened the show. um, I did a film while I was waiting to do Broadway shows as a choreographer. I did a lot of films. I choreographed a lot of films. Scent of a Woman, um, uh, The Object of My Affection, One True Thing, Meet Joe Black, In and Out with Kevin Kline. uh, but one of the films that I did has kind of become a cult film. It, um, uh, yeah, Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh my God, I
And the
love that
girls
movie.
and the girls have to do a pageant number and dance to conga, and they just painted the stools and they get paint all over their outfits. Boom, boom, on their boobs and on their butts. I choreographed that
I
film,
didn't know you
and
choreographed that.
and I was the one who chose conga. I told them I wanted to use conga for the number. So that was all. I came up with that whole thing. Yeah, it was that was.
Wow, it was like full circle for you. And then when you came back, you were like, well, I'm actually doing this, not just the number, it's actually
Yeah,
the whole show
yeah,
about Gloria. What if you could have give someone that wants to become a director, and especially in this business,
yeah.
what would be an advice you could give to?
If you want to become a director and or become a choreographer or become a director choreographer, and you're starting out, the I can only tell you from my own experience. The way I did it was to assist others, right? To get in the room with some other director or choreographer that I admired. It wasn't just ones that just to be in the room with, it was the ones I admired. I worked really hard to get in the room with the choreographers that I admired. Donald Sadler, Anna White, Ron Field, Michael Bennett, Bob Avian, Jerry Robbins, Agnes DeMille. I mean, these people taught me amazing lessons, and it was better than college. It was better than anything I could have done to be in the room with them and watch their process of creating. Even when I wasn't writing something down, when I was just absorbing the energy and what they were doing, often I will be working on something and I'll think, where did that come from? And then I think, oh, I know where that came from. That came from that time in 1980 when I was sitting there and Agnes DeMille said so-and-so. That's where that came from. So it all sort of goes in and it marinates and then it comes back out. I never even worked with Bob Fosse, but I admired everything that he did. And I remember him saying something in an interview long time ago about, you know, I think somebody asked him if he was ever unsure of himself or frightened or whatever, and I think the answer was, I'm paraphrasing, but the answer was, I'm always afraid because I have these ideas in my head and I see the numbers, and my question is, can I get them out of my head and on bodies? And what I've learned in that process myself is not to edit while it's coming out. Get it out there. Get it out, put it on a body, then look at it, and then start to edit it, then start to manipulate it. And I also learned that from a great playwright, Terrence McNally, who we just recently lost to COVID-19. Yeah. I mean, Terrence worked on the musical Full Monty with me, and he was writing the musical, right? Or I worked on the musical with Terrence and Jack O'Brien and David Yazbek. I was the choreographer, and it was one of my first jobs. And there was a paragraph for Kathleen Freeman, and Terrence had written this paragraph, and it was yay long. And every day he would come in, and it was funny, but every day he would come in and he'd cut a line, and he'd cut a line, and he'd cut a line, and cut a line, and cut, until he ended up with this single paragraph that probably had 6 laughs that anybody could land. But of course, he was writing it for her, and she landed it in a brilliant way. But what I learned from Terrence was, if he can do that with a paragraph, with a monologue, I can do that with a dance. I can edit it until it's at the length I want it to be and I think is sufficient for the number. One of the places I did that the best was in the Everybody Say Yeah conveyor belt number at the end of the first act of Kinky Boots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I was in the workshop, that number was much longer. I had choreographed more sections to it. And I would watch it and I'd go, no, I'm going to take that section. I'm taking that section out. And then when we got to Chicago, we tried it out. The audience was loving it and they were asking for more. And the producers begged me to make it longer, begged me. And I said, nope, I'm not making it any longer because I'd rather leave them wanting more. And I think it was the right thing to do.
I think that's maybe the recipe for success.
Yeah, you have to be a good editor, but young people, you can learn that by hanging out with people you admire who are doing what it is you want to do. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we were all somebody's assistant before we became the choreographer, before we became the director. So you're in the room with the same producer who's going to ask Jerry to direct the next show, and Jerry's going to say, I'm too busy. Why don't you ask my associate?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get your gig. So there's nothing wrong with being the assistant or the associate. It's a good thing. It's a good place to be.
Thank you so much for all your shows, for all the success.
Oh my God.
All the joy that you bring us every night. We're watching a show from you. So that's amazing. Thank you very,
My
very,
pleasure.
very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.